Hi, and welcome back to our last and final session of this curriculum. In this module, we will deep dive on the artifacts in Scrum. In Scrum, there is a total of 3 artifacts. Number 1, the product backlog. Number 2, the sprint backlog. And number 3, the product increment. Every single one of these artifacts comes with a commitment to them. The product backlog has the product goal, the sprint backlog has the sprint goal, and the product increment has the definition of done. Let's start with the product backlog, which is at the heart of all of these artifacts. Every product backlog contains the requirements of the product to be built. This product backlog is owned by the product owner, and the product owner needs to make sure that the product backlog meets certain characteristics. But before we go there, let's go back and actually look at the product goal. I mentioned earlier that each of these artifacts has a commitment to them. These commitments help you actually create the artifact themselves. How does the product goal help us create a product backlog? In order to answer this question, let's look at the product goal. Every product goal, I always refer to them as our North Star, should contain 4 elements. Number 1, it should clarify for whom are we building this product. Number 2, it should also mention why are we building this product? What kind of problem, what kind of need are we trying to solve? Number 3, it should contain what is the actual product or service that we're going to build. And last but not least, it should also mention why are we building this product for us as an organization? How does it deliver towards our organization's strategy, mission, or vision? Based on these 4 things, we can create the requirements in our product backlog. And as we uncover our uncertainty, or as we reduce the uncertainty that we have, we will add more and more requirements over time, and we can make those requirements more detailed. This leads us actually to the 4 characteristics that every product backlog should have. I mentioned earlier that the product backlog is owned by the product owner. So if you're a product owner or if you're working with the product owner, you should make sure that the following 4 things are in place. First, every product backlog should be prioritized. And based on that prioritization, the items at the top should be detailed down, including acceptance criteria, whereas the items at the bottom can be more vague. Second, every product backlog should be considered being a living document, which means we will constantly reorder the items in our product backlog, and we will add new items to the backlog and remove some older items from the backlog. Last but not least, we would want our product backlog to be estimated, especially the top part in that product backlog, so that a product owner can make predictions and that a Scrum team as a whole can also estimate how much work they take into a particular sprint. If you look at these 4 characteristics, you can again remember them somehow better using a specific acronym. That acronym is DEEP. The D stands for detailed appropriately, which means all the items at the top are detailed, whereas the items at the bottom are vague. The first E stands for emergent. That's the living document piece of the product backlog. That second E stands for estimated, and the P at the bottom stands for the product backlog being prioritized. So now we've looked at the product goal and how we create the product backlog from that. The next artifact is the sprint backlog. But again, before we go there, we will first take a look at the commitment towards that artifact. And that is the sprint goal. Every sprint goal basically describes a desired outcome we want to achieve based on the sprint or the next few sprints that we're going to run. That desired outcome is of course reflected in the prioritization of the product backlog. And based on that product backlog or that prioritization, the developers select a specific set of items into their next sprint backlog. So you see, the product backlog, the sprint goal, and the sprint backlog are all connected to each other. Once we move items from the product backlog into the sprint backlog, we can also break those items further down into specific tasks. Now, you don't have to do that, but some teams tend to do that because that creates, again, more transparency and allows them to do better empirical process control. Last but not least, let's look at our final artifact, which is the product increment. And again, remember, every artifact comes with a commitment to it. This time, it's the definition of done. The definition of done captures a team's shared understanding of what done actually means. Does it mean that we test the items? Does it mean that we create a documentation? For whom do we create that documentation? Is it just the users? Is it us? Is it other stakeholders? So whatever done means, you try to capture that in your definition of done, make it transparent to everyone so that also every single member of that team can deliver towards that definition of done. Every single item within a sprint that means the definition of done ultimately is part of the product increment that we deliver at the end of every sprint. This product increment can be demonstrated to our stakeholders, it can be reviewed, and we can get feedback based on that so that we can do inspection and adaptation. Again, empirical process control. To summarize, we have 3 artifacts in Scrum: the product backlog, the sprint backlog, and the product increment. Each one of these artifacts comes with a commitment to them. The product goal for the product backlog, the sprint goal for the sprint backlog, and the definition of done for the product increment. I hope that this brief overview of the artifacts provided you with a better understanding of what the artifacts actually are and how all of those artifacts, including their commitments, are connected. This was the final module of this class. Class dismissed.